Hey, welcome back to mindemo Body. I might have kind of trailed off at the end of the last video, but it was just kind of went into a ramble that was not that relevant to the program and something I think I'll explain, maybe later in detail in more other videos. So sorry about that, but we'll just jump kind of back in. A few points that I want to kind of really just wrap up on before we wrap this thing up. I keep saying that. Is this thing going to go on forever? I'm not really sure. But so we talked about the calorie, balance, the calorie restriction. You want to be in a deficit, obviously, if you're trying to lose weight. But it doesn't have to be a restriction. Your calorie deficit can come from exercise. It can come from especially low intensity, steady state walking. The more steps you can get in, especially if you're already at a low steps, you've got so much room for improvement. Walking can really be a great tool, a great habit, a great part of your life. It's so healthy, again, on so many levels, between the air, the breath, the movement, the sunlight. The movement combined with the eyes does things to our brains that I just couldn't even begin to get into unless we wanted to make this a really, really long program. So again, you can what you want to do again with this variety idea, we don't ever want to get too settled and into the same exact thing every single day. I mean, you want to have approximately the same calories up and down, but you wanted to have that zigzag throughout your days and throughout the week. You want to look at really your only calorie restriction by the week. The deficit by the week matters. You don't want to have a huge calorie deficit every single day. You don't even, like, if you say if you want to go for a mild calorie deficit, that would be about 250 calories per max for 2000, if you eat like a 2000 calorie diet or so. So that's kind of what you're looking at, and you don't want to go much over that. You're going to cause problems, especially if you're trying to body recomp at the same time. You're not going to be able to go very hard. You're not going to be able to have your best performance. You might open yourself up to more illnesses, or if you have other problems, it might be exacerbate those problems. Just not a good idea to stress your body out. And again, when you go over, just know, and it really helps you to have this mentality that every day is not going to be the same, because then when you do mess up and you have a big feast day, as our ancestors would have also done, and it's natural to have a feast day. Our bodies are supposed to have feast days. Don't stop thinking about it as a bad thing. You want to have that feast day, but then that you're going to come around. Either not, doesn't even have to be the next day. You can, a lot of times I like to do it in twos, or you can get good and have like a few, of your lower days, and then your one kind of rebuild day. And if you don't want to think about it as a feast day, because you don't want to be it's not a full license to eat whatever you want all day long. It's just eat more of the good healthy foods that you have worked into your diet, that you are working into your diet. Yada, yada, yada. Again, not about restriction. It's about getting that variety, getting those colors in, getting those different types of foods. Even I want to make a note about this because I keep on mentioning, kind of the low carb side that I've been getting into lately the past year or so. And I really love. I think I'm definitely going to stick with it again as an aging woman. I think it's important. And again, if you want to get into that, that's more detailed. Ask me. I might make a video. We might do a call, whatever. We may just chat about it. But again, you want there's a zigzag, there's a work it in. We're not always going to be in ketosis. We're not always going to do low carb, and there's a time and a place for everything. It's the cycles of life, and again, that's what keeps you in your balance, because our hormones go up and down naturally, so we got to work with that. We got to do different things. And we will get there. I know we haven't got detailed into that, and I keep saying we will, and we will. And there is info. You can look it up. You don't have to wait for me necessarily either, okay? But again, look at that weekly calorie balance. Again, calorie deficit doesn't have to be done by calorie restriction. I would say a combination of both. On days, obviously where you're going to exercise more, you might eat a little bit more, especially like if you're doing a leg day, you want to eat more on that big day. And then maybe you can eat a little bit less on the days that you're, you know, and you'll notice kind of patterns within yourself. Well, I naturally am less hungry on this day, so eat less on that day. But you kind of want to work in these cycles of activity as well and have your cycles of progressive overload, but realize again that it's going to be a cycle. And I don't recommend these challenges where again you go crazy for a certain period of time. Make it sustainable, but understand that it's going to be a cycle of building for a certain amount of time, and then you're going to take a break from that cycle and start over again. Because again, these cycles just help us. We're not Superman. We can't do calorie restriction or super hard workouts for weeks on end without taking breaks. Like, don't think that you can. Overtraining is real. That's kind of what I was getting at with a lot of my, the end of the last video trailing off. And it is real. Listen to your body. Again, as long as you listen to your body, you'll be okay. But it is real. A lot of people have not pushed their bodies to a point where they've experienced that. And I can say I have now. And you can be sore for weeks. And, having that good nutrition piece will come with it. But like what I was going to say, and I kind of trailed off earlier, even on the daily dozen, like Dr. Greger, nutritionfacts.org, everybody loves it. The vegans, we all pretty much respect this guy, this organization. And so people will think, oh no, you've gone low carb, so you're not as whole food plant-based. Well, I am actually more whole food plant-based on the low carb diet that I do most of the time throughout the month, because I'm cutting out a lot of whole grains is actually in the daily dozen. Refined carbohydrates is not in the daily dozen. But when you open yourself up in your mind, at least me, to the whole grains, we talked about this before too, then you open yourself up to grains. A lot of people do this. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing whole food plant-based, but you're eating a lot of, actually you're not maybe being quite as honest with yourself about how many refined white trash carbs you're actually eating. You know what I mean? So to me, that's how I find myself eating more salads, more whole foods, more plant-based. I'm eating more nuts, I'm eating more fat, but I'm eating more whole foods overall and less refined carbs, because just taking out the grains, and again, I still eat grains. I'll eat rice tocopherols, I eat some oats, I'll eat, I don't eat probably as many grains, but again, I eat way less refined grains. And when I do eat carbs, I eat more whole food carbs and more whole food grains now. So you see how it kind of weighs out. I'm not saying you have to do it, but I'm just saying beware if you're sneaking in those refined carbs that it's not on the daily dozen. I really recommend doing the daily dozen. Maybe you don't have to do the checklist every single day, but again, it's kind of a good way to track. It's just another tool that you can use to get an idea of how good your diet is. Do it for a week or two or even a couple days, and then see what you can learn about it. And if it's something that you want to continue, or and sometimes like the daily dozen, it includes the beverages on there. If you already know you drink enough water because you've worked that into your life, knock that off. I take off exercise. I already know my exercise program. I'm doing that, so I knock that off. So I essentially end up just doing about like a normal 9 is what I call it. So I'll look at that for a while and do my normal 9, and it's basically the same amounts of everything. Again, I do maybe cut down the whole grains in certain times, maybe even cut down the fruits, but usually I still get my fruits, because I'll get either avocado or bell peppers or olives, or there's some other fruits like zucchini types of fruits, and I'll count those as a fruit. Lemons, do a lot of lemon juice, lemon citrusy stuff like that, so I'll count those as well. And a lot of berries, I still do a lot of berries, but that counts as itself. But if I eat more of the quantity of berries than just one, because it's only one for the daily dozen, so if I eat 3 servings of berries, then of course those 2 extra servings that's my fruit for the day. So actually, you wouldn't think it, but even if I'm low carb, I still get, like, again, all of this normal 9 or daily dozen per day, like a lot of the days. And that's something to shoot for. Your 1 cruciferous vegetable, your 1 serving of berries, your 3 servings of fruits, 2 greens is easy. For most people, I think it's so hard because if you look at a little salad and what actually the serving is for salads, it's like, whoa. But for us vegans who eat big salads, it's super easy. Um, Even salad wraps, oh, love them. I could just down so much salad that way. 2 other veggies, 1 omega-3 or flax serving, 1 serving of nuts, easy. 1 like spices, turmeric, sort of something like that. And then I know I'm missing something. So and coconut yogurt, I do a lot of times as well. So I'll just go ahead and count that as a fruit, or like chocolate, a little cocoa, maybe a serving of cocoa could be a fruit. I'm not sure, and sometimes you can just use your discretion there on some of those. But obviously beans, I eat a lot of soy, so you got your beans. And yeah, like I said, sometimes might do some quinoa. I love sprinkling quinoa in certain little candies and things. Rice tocopherols, maybe a little bit of rice, maybe you just might do some rice cakes. And I try to get good, healthy rice cakes if I do those, but I didn't last time. I got sent the wrong stuff. But anyways, in the protein too, when you eat a protein shake, you can kind of be like, okay, is this going to be a nut, or is this going to be like, does this have greens in it? And not all my greens are going to be fresh. I'm going to do a lot of powdered greens, a lot of powdered greens with citrus, like I said before, to make things easy. And, a lot of tofu, that counts. You get your 3 beans, like easy, soy milk, edamame, tempeh. Yeah, beans is an easy one. So yeah, people are surprised, but you can still get your daily dozen, even if you're doing a little bit more low carb. And I wouldn't think of it as a crazy low carb diet where you're restricting anything, because obviously you're not. This is still a very much like you need your variety, and you're eating all sorts of food groups, variety within food groups, variety of vegetables, variety of food groups, variety of exercise, like everything you need your variety. And that includes, like, again, the amounts that we're eating, back to famine and feasting, or feasting and rebuilding, different things like that. There's different, you can even get into like different intermittent fasts that do different things for you. Again, ask me down below about that if you're interested. But it's just great. You will progressively overload your workouts and then take a time off and then build back up, and then it's always going to be a zigzag. Just remember, zigzagging is your best friend. Change is your best friend. You don't want things to stay the same. That's when you burn out. Okay? If you start getting really sick of the gym, allow yourself to take that time off. That's when you normally love it. Watch for those signs and changes, and pay attention to your body, and be intuitive. Okay? Don't just base your stuff on what other people are doing. And I would say really stick to the fundamentals and just learn the fundamental moves, especially before trying to branch out and do like just crazy stuff that you see. Just work on, again, progressive overloading. That same cycle, you're going to do basically the same exercises the whole time to progressively overload those exercises. Okay, it doesn't matter wherever you're starting. Like when I just started out again, I just worked out for the first time in 2 weeks. So now that I'm starting this cycle again, what I'm doing, I started at square one. I didn't go to the gym and start lifting what I was doing, or even close, or even half. No. And I was still sore. I'm sore today because of my workout, but I was still sore ahead of time. And usually I don't even work out if I'm sore, like I was saying before. But I was like, it's time. I think I might be sore because I'm not working out at this point as much as, that I'm still recovering. But so I'm going to take my own advice and listen to my body. But I started at, like I would with a warm up, basically. I started with air squats and air everything, no weights on anything. The calisthenics, basically. I did leg day, I did my squats, I did my lunges, I did everything. I did my warm-ups, basically, and then anything I added was no more than 3-pound weights on each hand. That's how light I took it, and I'm still sore. So totally a weenie workout for me, If you were talking to me a few weeks ago, I would have laughed that I would be sore after this. But you see how this cycles, and your body needs this. This is why we have seasons. I love the seasons. Here in Missouri, we have all 4 seasons. We have 4 seasons, and I don't think I would even want to live somewhere. Even right now, like, it's the worst. People come here from California and hot places, Florida. They're like, it's so hot here. Like, I can't handle it. Even like Arizona, desert hot. People come here and it's so humid. It's a different kind of hot. It's like you can't even go outside. It's oppressive, right? Especially now. I think the whole country's going through that right now. But it's like, I don't mind it because I like to have this back and forth and this change. And I would rather have the seasons. I would rather have, it's just, you don't get bored. So, I just want to make another mention about sprout hunting. We're going sprout hunting. We're always on the lookout for those sprouts, especially if you start feeling down. Train yourself like an Easter egg. After like you go Easter egg hunting, or after you go like for a real hunting, or if you go mushroom hunting or something, you'll be looking, and you'll like train. And after you go somewhere else, you'll kind of be having that same. You'll be like wanting to look around and do the same thing over and over again. That's how you want to be. You want to train your brain and get into the habit of it. Train your eyeballs, to always be looking for these signs. Train yourself to be expecting something good when you look at your phone, because you're expecting to be finding that next sprout, that next win. Okay? Be open to growth. Be open to change. It's the same thing. If you're not open to change, you're not open to growth. So always remind yourself how open to change you are, how it feels so good now that you're open to change. Okay. If I didn't mention too, back on the body stuff, sorry, this is jumping around a little bit, some random notes here, but to tidy up the loose ends. But when you have the chronometer apps and track, you can really get deep into those with your activity tracking, and it'll do all the calculations for you. I highly recommend, again, even just looking at that for a few weeks or so to get an idea of where those caloric balances fall at the end of the day. You'll learn a lot, again, by kind of setting those up, looking at the settings, making sure you have your settings to incorporate your data from your steps and all of that. So it's really, really cool. And that's kind of what you need to be thinking about and need to be focused on, is that, again, that caloric balance at the end of the week. Okay. So you also want to, with kind of this sprout hunting, this win hunting, you really want to get to the point where you will get to the point, actually, let me just rephrase that. You don't need to want this. I mean, you can want it, you can work for it, but you will get to the point where you will start uncovering these wins so much that you realize that before, the old you used to just let these things go by without celebrating them. And how sad for the old you, that those wins little wins would get by you. You'll see it. Watch out for it. Again, be on the lookout. Train your brain here to be on the lookout for these little wins, because you'll be like, oh my gosh, that happened earlier, and I knew it happened, but it didn't fully register. I didn't put it's like a mental stamp of approval. That's a win. It's not official unless you mentally stamp it, and that way it's filed. You can file it now. You know what I mean? Like, any secretaries are going to get these references in my head right now. But, yeah, because you'll do that. You'll be like, oh my gosh, that happened, and I totally didn't. I just realized that's a win, and it's amazing. So you can retroactively celebrate things that you forget to celebrate at the beginning. And again, you'll catch yourself, bust yourself, as Dana Wilde always says. I love it. Bust yourself and have fun. You're not going to bust yourself and get mad at yourself for thinking the old way. Of course, that's expected. It's going to happen. We're going to be cool with ourselves, just like we're cool with everybody else, right? And be nice to ourselves. And we're going to bust ourselves in a good way and just laugh it off and have fun with it and do better the next time, just like we would expect each other to do. So a couple other things here. One easy thing. And again, we don't always have to do this, okay, monthly, list and the post-it note challenge. We talked about this before, the post-it note challenge. You take your little thing that you want for the next couple weeks or month and you put it all over. Remember, you want to make it in a positive statement, in a present tense something. So not I am, not I will, I have, I'm doing this, I am this, I am where I want to be. I did it, It's kind of past tense, a little iffy, but you can play around with it, whatever feels best for you ultimately. But you don't have to do it the same way if you get bored, and you don't have to just say it to yourself the same way. And sometimes it's fun to make your little list and reminders. It doesn't all have to be a post-it note. You can have different doodles, different mind mapping sort of things. We've talked about some of them, I think, one of the first videos. But so with this one, I like to just do like half and half. You can do your kind of your short-term goals on one side, your longer-term goals on the other side, and then that way, when you're in a mood to focus on something with some more instant gratification, you can kind of look at this side and focus on this side and think about it. And even if you just have a few seconds just to glance at something, be like, yeah, that's it right there. That's the vibe. You get so good at it. You don't, you're going to have maybe a longer session later to visualize deeper, but now we only have a quick second. So we glance, we smile, we move on, and, it's a little bit of extra positivity. So you can just do that. Another thing that we kind of talked about that we haven't delved too far into is kind of our transitional mantras. So I think what I'm going to do, before we go, let's talk about, let me show you some examples of some mantras that maybe are not quite so transitional. Okay, so like, I feel so good because everything works out perfectly for me. My life is absolutely amazing. I have everything I could ever want and more. I am so blessed and lucky. Only good things come to me. I attract abundance and peace. Okay, so these mantras are examples of mantras that might not be so practical. Again, if you're like not already in a good state, whether it's you're not feeling great about your body or, whatever the issue is. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video, and the next video is going to be mantras that you can just listen to or that can get you excited and want to help you create your own list of mantras or whatever that are transitional as well. So thanks. Stay tuned.